President. Please be seated. The court is now back in session, and the chamber hands over the floor to the National Legal Lawyer for Civil Party to resume his questioning. You may proceed. Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me to resume my questioning. I have a question for clarification in relation to the statement of witness on 8 June 2016. The witness stated about the three children of Sang-un, and that statement was made at 9 hours 55 and 27 seconds. You stated that the three children of Sang-un did not survive. Could you again shed light on the three children of Sang-un? What was the reason that the three children did not survive? Witness, let me bring up the issue once again. Sang-un had three children, and among them there was a newborn baby, and another child was perhaps 3 years old, and then the eldest one was 5 years old, perhaps. Sang-un was not in S21. I assigned a female to look after the three children, and the food was to provide it equal as to that of Mom Nai. The children who were given rights to eat but no sentiments by the regime at the time did not survive the regime. The youngest child died of malnutrition or swelling disease. At the time, there were no medicines for treatment. In 1973 and 74, famine happened within the revolution. Some offices had only the onko jage or the bananas to eat after they were dried and boiled. And the food ration at M13 was also reused. I had a meal mixed with bamboo shoots at the time. We faced food issue at the time. Mom Nai child or children were raised with sentiment, with good sentiment, with best care, and they had hygiene meals to eat. This is the experience that I had in relation to the taking care of children. So I hope I fully respond to your question, and if you want to know more, you can put your follow-up question. I want you to clarify in relation to the three children of Sang-un. You stated that the 3 children died at M13. On the same date that I mentioned, that is the 8th June, you stated that you asked Sun Sen about perhaps that issue, and the instruction of Sun Sen was about the absolute stance on the issue. Could you explain further on the absolute stance on raising the children? Witness, thank you. It was later on when I was assigned to work at S21 under the same supervisor or superior, that is Sun Sen. Sun Sen was also my superior when I was at M13. I did not make a full report at M13. Later on, the issue of eye for an eye was raised after the parents were smashed. There was an issue with the children. The children of those who were arrested needed to be smashed as well. And at S21, I made a report to Sun Sen about the 3 children that I raised. So the stance was to be absolute. After the parents were smashed, that was the time for the children. There is another issue of Sen, the child of Won, the member of Standing Committee of Center. After Won was arrested, the child was also arrested at the time. Thank you. Is the absolute stance has something to do with the slogan that is digging grass? The roots has to be taken out as well. Answer. In general, that slogan was used or known by the public. That is the purging method of the CPK, the purging against the bad elements. The slogan was correct. But CPK itself did not use the slogan. Party only requires us to be absolute in our stance. We have to distinguish enemies and people. As I said, we were instructed to serve the people there with all your hearts. And we believe in the peasants based on the class of the party. Thank you. I have another question in relation to a dentist, Di Pon. Did he survive the regime after 6 January 1979? Witness, thank you. Di Pon, alias Tu, was released by me. He was not shackled to his ankle. He had a different sleeping quarter and a different food ration. He was allowed to help with the teeth. He was allowed to be a dentist at S21. Later on, he went together with Comrade Van. He survived the regime. Dentist D. Pont did not come to testify before the chamber. Nhep Ho went with a group of comrades together with D. Pont after 6 January 1979. And for Nhep Ho, I did not know whether he later on lived through 1980s. Thank you. I am now asking you about the food ration of prisoners at S21. What were the food rations like at S21? Witness. There was a document stating about the food ration, how many cans of rice are provided to prisoners at S21, but I myself did not have the list or document. My sibling who was released made mention about the food ration at S21, and my sibling said that the food ration at S21 was better than at the base. In principle, I did not reuse the food ration as the punishment for the prisoners. But let me clarify that the prisoners who were interrogated, the food ration for the prisoners who were interrogated were very cautious. For example, a prisoner, there was a case of one prisoner. That prisoner was from perhaps Division 160. During the interrogation, it was found out that the prisoner swallowed a piece of iron, and he could not confess. Seeing that, I instructed to have a medic to come and conduct the surgery to get the screw out of the body. I observed that some witnesses who came to testify before the chamber were exaggerated. And there was a case that the witness mentioned about using coffee spoon to feed the prisoners. If we had reused the food ration provided to the prisoner, many of them would have died, and the confessions would be cut off. Regarding the food rations for staff members at S21, they had 2 meal times per day. And for my case, I did not like soup, so usually I was provided with different dishes, but not soup. Thank you. I am now asking you about the treatment of prisoners. What type of prisoners were treated at S21? Answer. The important prisoners were treated at S21. At 21, there were medical doctors, and those doctors were prisoners. I used one of the medical doctors at S21 to treat a prisoner. Her name was Padit. She graduated from medicine from USSR. There was another doctor, medical doctor, named Lai Thong. Lai Dara. When I was seriously ill, I asked the two doctors to come and treat me. Initially, I used Brother Rodkut to treat my diseases. I regarded him as my senior at cell number 3 when I was at the pagoda, and later on I used Sieng Seng. He was from Hospital 98, and he was also the professor in medicine. So let me clarify that these were the medical doctors at S21 that were the prisoners. Question: what were the purposes to treat prisoners at S21? Why some prisoners were treated at S21? President, please wait, Mr. Witness, and observe the microphone. Answer. Prisoners were given with rice to eat, and they were treated so that they survive the detention. When the prisoners were needed for interrogation, they would be taken for interrogation, and if they were to be smashed, they would be taken away to be smashed. So they had to be in good form in terms of health. Concerning Professor or Teacher King Ton, he was sent into S21, but I had not been informed in advance about his case. That happened in the same case as Pon. Pon died because of some reason, but I did not know that he died. In general, prisoners had to survive for interrogation, and after interrogation they would be sent away for execution. For the prisoners who were not important, after I made the report to Sun Sen, and I got instruction from him, I would send those prisoners out for execution. But you were talking about smashing of prisoners. After prisoners were smashed, were funeral rituals held for those smashed prisoners? Answer. That I would like to clarify that this kind of practice was against our custom and traditions. And I think that this court has adhered to the tradition and custom of Cambodia. After the accused died, the body was handed over to the family. For prisoners at the time, after they were smashed, they were buried in the graves. That was against the tradition and our customs. Thank you. I want to ask you in relation to one document, A3/12. The heading of the document is the decision of centers on particular matters. That document is dated 30th March 1976. I want to ask you about the right to smash outside and inside the rank. Mr. President, may I provide the document to the witness? President, you may proceed. Thank you, Mr. President. You could remember the first point very easily, and I would like to refer you to the first page of the document. I do not want to read the eons in 3 languages because there is only one page. The document states about the right to smash within and outside the ranks. And objective is mentioned in the document. Number 1, that there is a framework in absolute implementation of our revolution. Mr. Witness, could you explain the first point, that there is a framework in absolute implementation of our revolution? What does it mean? President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, you have the floor first. Copper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to this question. I know the witness has given extensive testimony about this document. However, the trial chairman in case 001 has also established itself that he never knew of the existence of this document before 1979. So that is something that has been established. The witness has also admitted this himself a few times. So now asking again questions to the witness on this very subject, on this document that he has zero contemporaneous knowledge of, is something which is not appropriate, and therefore I object to this question.
Mr. President, I would like to ask the witness whether or not he was aware of the existence of this document when he was in charge of S21. Mr. Witness, when you were in charge of S21, were you aware, or did you happen to see that document? Witness, thank you. I would like to make mention of this document in 2 points. This document was provided to me in 2 occasions. The first time the document was provided to me by the co-prosecutor, and the investigating judges withdrew it. So I could say that I saw the document during the investigation stage. That happened in a specific year, which I could not recall it. In fact, the implementation did happen in 1971. M13 did not have the right to go around and arrest people. The decision was vested within the center. One was in charge of the special zone, and Mok was in charge of the southwest. That was the practice, that the decision was made by the center. M13 did not have the right to go and arrest people. If M13 had done so, it would have been in danger. And once again, there were 196 police officers. Why were they gone? Because those officers perhaps did not respect the decision of the center, or perhaps those officers did not adhere to the moral acts or principles. In fact, the decision perhaps was made on 20th July 1971. That had to be adhered by police officers at the time, since the time. But in fact, I do not want to go into the detail about when the document or the decision was made. I would like to ask whether or not you were aware or you did see the document when you were in charge of S21. In point number 1, it states absolute implementation of our revolution. What does this mean? Witness, thank you. The communist theory or ideology is that freedom will lead to anarchy. President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, you have the floor first. Anti-Guise.
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to repeat my colleague's objection from earlier on. The first question of, he commented immediately on a document before the witness answered whether or not he was aware of this document when he was heading S21. And based on his previous statements, I understood that he saw this document for the first time during the investigation, and then he saw it again during the trial. So I understood that he had not seen this document when he was heading S21, but might be good to specify this. And in this case, the second question of my colleague is not suited, and therefore I object to this second question.
Generally, we have frequently asked witnesses to comment on documents on which they had no contemporaneous knowledge. It depends obviously on the context and the question, but in itself, this is not a valid objection. As soon as it is clear where his knowledge, provided he says he has any, is coming from. So again, what was the last question? The one you are now objecting to?
Madam Judge. I did not quote the whole document for witness to answer. I quoted only the part of the documents for the witness, so that I could have the explanation from the witness. I asked the witness about the meaning of absolute implementation of our revolution, so I did not quote the whole document for witness to answer.
Again, what exactly are you objecting to in for this question, for this special question.
Pour rebondir sur...
To follow up on what you said a while ago, by saying that the witness has already been asked to comment on documents, and he said he didn't have prior knowledge of that. Now, the documents presented related to S21, even though he may not have known these documents specifically. If they ask general questions on functioning of S21, I have no objection to that, but to ask the witness to speak as an expert about documents he never saw and in respect of which he has no particular knowledge, I do understand that this is a decision of the Central Committee, and this is what poses a problem. The witness is being asked to furnish explanations and to make remarks and to express his opinion on documents which he has no reason to know, to have specific knowledge of. So these are statements that had nothing to do with his work at S21. Unless the question is rephrased, I find that it is too broad, and the witness didn't have any specific knowledge of these statements at the time, and that is why I'm objecting to this line of questioning.
I'd like to hand the floor to Judge Laverne to make an oral decision on the last question by the National Lead Co-Lawyer for Civil Parties, which was opposed by the International Council for Khieu Samphan. Judge Laverne, you have the floor.
Oui, merci, monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. President. The chamber wishes to underscore the point that the witness here present is not an expert, so he is not in a position to give a general opinion, particularly with regard to documents he was not aware of when he was the head of S21. So, in this sense, the objection raised by the defense is perhaps upheld. However, it is also clear that the document in question can shed light on the witness's knowledge at the time regarding the manner in which S21 was called upon to function. So perhaps the question should be rephrased and the witness should be asked whether, in light of the decision of the standing committee, he had another vision of the situation and what impact the way S21 functioned could have on his reasoning. We are not going to ask him to explain in general terms the terms used by the standing committee. Council, you say, for the record, let us recall that the document is titled Decision of the Central Committee, Standing Committee. And I would like to recall that we raised questions regarding the authenticity of this document. In any case, the manner in which the document is titled Central Committee document.
But thank you, Judge, for clarifying the question and rephrase my question. Witness, regarding the first point of the document, there is, the objective is that there is a framework in absolute implementation of our revolution. Can you tell the chamber your understanding of that point, the first point, in terms of your implementation and working at S21? Answer, thank you. Allow me to clarify that all Santebal offices of the CPK, that is from December 1970 up to the day we fledged the June troops, that is 7 January 1979, all those Santebal offices were regarded as an absolute tool of the party. And that is the definition given to Santebal offices. And in terms of implementation, I was repeatedly instructed and warned not to make any arbitrary arrest of anyone. Brother Mok and Brother C, that is the deputy and the secretary of the Southwest Zones, were also members of the Central Committee. Hut Heng Alice Pao, that is secretary of Sector 32, was also a former of the Central Committee. As for the Central Zone, Brother Vaughan was a member of the Central Committee. For that reason, M13 did not go out to make any arrest or received anyone sent to us except those by the center. And if I were to go out and make an arrest, then I would be beheaded, because that was against the principle. For that reason, the document clearly set the limit of our work, starting from the 30th of March, rather 30th of July, 20th of July 1971, because we at S21 did not have any authority to make any arrest. We were there only to receive the people arrested by the party, and our implementation was consistent with what is said in that document. Question, thank you. And I'd like to also refer to other points set out in the document. There are 3 sub-points underneath. There is surrounding the Central Office to be decided by the Central Office Committee. As for independent sectors, it has to be decided by the Standing Committee. And as for the Central Military, it has to be decided by the General Staff. During your implementation, can you inform the Chamber whether your implementation is consistent with what I just said? Answer, thank you. Regarding the issue regarding the point surrounding the Central Office and that it had to be decided by the Central Office Committee, there were many offices surrounding the Central Office. And the decision had to be made by the Politburo of the party center. As for the independent sectors, the Central Committee had to make a decision that is the standing committee of the party. And I'd like to mention one independent sector of Kampong Saum. The Kampong Saum independent sector did not report through the Southwest Zone Secretary. It has to make a direct report through 870, and all decisions had to be made by 870 and not by the Secretary of Southwest Zone, although physically it was part of the Southwest Zone. So usually 164 has to report through the party center, that is through 870, that is a standing committee. As for the Central Military, and I believe there are many surviving documents highlighting this Central Military. Usually after meetings, Sunset annotated to Comrade Pin for consideration. So all implications in the confessions had to be considered by Pin as who had to be arrested and who not. And that was the change of a command regarding the Central Military. Question, thank you. You said that the Politburo had to make decisions, and can you inform the Chamber who were members of the Politburo? President, witness, please observe the microphone. Actually, I made mention of members of the Politburo of the party center. In Cambodia, usually it's not referred to as the Politburo, but it referred to as the Permanent Committee or the 870 Committee. For the former resistance, including Chu Chet alias C, Ngong Thi Soon alias Nong Soon, they were referred to as the intellectual group or Phnom Penh group. So in Cambodia, the Politburo usually referred to as the Standing Committee or Committee 870. And there were Pol Pot, that is Pol Pot, Thu, Brother Noon, third, Brother 1, that is Ieng Sari, and number 4, Brother Von, number 5, Brother Kieu, that is Son Sen, and number 6, Brother Haim, that is Kieu Sampon. Question. Thank you for your response. And the title of the documents that I refer to is Decision of the Central Committee. The Central Committee and Office of the Party Center is one or the same. President, please rephrase it as the witness did not mention or refer to office of the party center. You should quote the exact words used or responded by the witness so that it does not confuse anyone. Council, thank you, Mr. President. I actually jotted down his words, and maybe he referred to use another term that is Kena Pracham Ka in Khmer or Permanent Committee. So again, my question is in relation to the title of the document, that is Decision of the Central Committee. And my question to you, witness, is that whether Kieu Sampon was a member of the Central Committee on the 30th of March 1976. Answer. Thank you. And allow me to clarify the term, the office of the party center. The Communist Party of Cambodia never used that term. That is, my superior Son Sen also never used that term. However, in relation to Communist Party of June or China, they refer to the office of the party center. But in CPK, they use the Permanent Committee or Committee 870, and I already made mention of members of the committee. That is Brother Paul, Brother Noon, Brother Wan, Brother Von, Brother Kieu, and Brother Pon. There were 6 members. As for another set of the leadership of the party, they were known as a Standing Committee of the Party Center. And there were Brother Paul, Brother Noon, Brother Phum from the East Zone, 4, Brother Mao from the Southwest, Brother Wan, number 5, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and number 6, Brother Von, and number 7, Brother Kieu, Son Sen from the General Staff. And there were only 7 members of the standing committee. And that is from the Independence Day, that is the 4th Party Congress. And they remained members until the 5th Party's Congress. Brother Ham was not part of the office of the standing committee, but he was a member of the permanent committee. And in Khmer referred to as Kiatnak Pracham Ka. As 2 members of the standing committee were not members of the permanent committee, as they did not attend weekly meetings in Phnom Penh. That is Brother Prum from the east and Brother Mok at the southwest zone. Although they were members of the standing committee, they were not members of the permanent committee. President, thank you. From my observation, the question is rather repetitive, as the question was put to the witness by the deputy co-prosecutor already. And the question was for you to clarify about the composition of the Central Committee, in particular in relation to the document before you. That is in relation to the decision of the Central Committee and the implementation at S21. So the question is for you to respond to the limit of the composition of the Central Committee. Counsel, witness, allow me to repeat my question again. By 30 March 1976, was Khieu Sampon a member of the Central Committee? Answer. Brother Khieu Sampon was a full member of the party center as well as a member of the permanent committee. Question. Thank you. In fact, I'd like to ask you on some more points in relation to this document, but my time is running out, and I'd like to hand the floor to the co-prosecutors. President, for the remaining time, I'd like to hand the floor to the co-prosecutors to continue putting further questions to the witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have just a few minutes so before the break. Let me start, Mr. Witness, by going back to something and seeking some clarification with respect to something I asked you about last week. Mr. President, if I could, I'd like to provide back to the witness 2 lists that were given to him last week. You may recall these are the lists of former Lon Nol personnel, military personnel sent to S21 who came from a village called Tali Village. And it's document E3-2017, E3/2017, Khmer ERN 000-21137, English is 00183-670-72, and also document E3/3187, Khmer ERN 00008785 through 86, English 00874 237 through 41. May I hand these to the witness?
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, I showed you these documents last week, and I'd like to read to you now an excerpt from a book written by Michael Vickery. It is the book is E3/1757, E3/1757, page 175 of that book, English ERN 003979090. There's no translations presently. They've been requested. In Michael Vickery's book, he writes about this location, Tali village, and this is what he says, if you can listen to this quote. A former Lon Nol official, Seng Chen An, was sent with his wife to the village of Tali, 15 to 20 kilometers due south of the city. He wrote that the internees there were divided into 3 sections: civilians who had recently returned from abroad, a group of former urban intellectuals who had joined the revolutionaries in 1972 to 73, and military personnel who had come back from the United States. End of quote. My question, does this refresh your memory at all, Mr. Witness? Do you remember a group of former Lon Nol servicemen who had returned to Democratic Kampuchea from the United States and were later sent to S-21? Do you remember these men?
I do not have a clue at all about the lay village or who was sent there. It is possible that it was the remaining task of Brother Nat, and some saint ordered Nat to finish off his work. As I said, I do not know how to respond to your question in relation to Talay village. I have no clue at all about its location.
Just one follow-up. I'm not asking you about where the location of Tali village. The lists, the S-21 lists I provided to you are from August or September 1976, well after the time you had taken over from Nat. My question is, do you remember prisoners, former Lon Nol servicemen who were sent to S-21 who had been in the United States when the Khmer Rouge gained power but had returned to Democratic Kampuchea? Do you remember those former Lon Nol servicemen from the United States?
That question is rather strange to me. Although the date you mentioned is after I became chairman of S-21, I never received any soldiers who returned from the United States at all.
I thank you, Mr. Witness. I just wanted to see if you had any recollection of these people. Mr. President, I can break here.
Thank you, Deputy Co-Prosecutor. It is now convenient for our lunch break. We'll take the break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. security personnel, you are trying to take Kiel Sampon as well as witness Kang Gek Il to the waiting room downstairs separately, and have Kiel Sampon returns to the courtroom before 1:30. As for witness, please have him returns to attend the proceedings at 1:30. The court is now in recess.